Most people have probably heard of color in film. I'd say that's a fair statement to make, but let me stop you right there. For the majority of what we consider film history, colors like what you're seeing on screen right now really weren't in film at all, except for the few exceptions where it was colored in, like as we just saw in Wizard of Oz. For the most of film history, films usually looked like this, or like this, or whatever this is. That does beg the question though, really, how old is photography in cinema? Well, the first camera, called the daguerreotype, was designed by this fine Frenchman, Louis Daguerre, in 1839. Back then, a single camera cost 400 francs, which, when converted to dollars and adjusted for inflation, is around $2,630. Just to put in perspective how much money that is, I pulled in my bursar for this project from OU, and that would make exactly one monthly payment, no more, no less. In other words, early cameras were expensive.
39 years later, an Englishman wished to settle a bet with a Californian businessman. The bet was to determine whether or not a horse lifted up all four of its legs while running. The Englishman, Edward Muybridge, devised a way to rapidly take photos of a galloping horse and won the bet, proving once and for all the horse does in fact lift all four of its legs.
This method of photography, called chronophotography, means the capture of instances in time on an image. A good example of this was the scene just shown from Tarzan from 1999, where the titular character is shown a series of photographs similar to Muybridge's horse, instead this time being shown is a man on a bicycle.
So popular was chronophotography at the time that a chronophotographic gun invented by Etienne Jules Marie in 1882 was able to capture 12 frames a second and is considered an early ancestor of the movie camera. It was the first device able to capture moving images on the same chromatographic plate using a metal shutter.
One drawback from this time period, however, was the expensive cost of the film itself. Fortunately, with enough technological breakthroughs, there came a solution. The first flexible roll of film, invented by George Eastman in 1885, was just a coating on a paper base. To process the film, the image-bearing layer was stripped from the paper and attached to a sheet of hardened, clear gelatin. In 1888, Eastman also invented the first flexible, transparent film. If the name George Eastman rings any bells, it's because he founded the Eastman Kodak Company, later known as simply Kodak.
Action or still?
She did it.
Kodak Max. It's all you need to know about film.
On December 28, 1895, the Lumiere brothers premiered their cinematograph at the Grand Café in Paris. The filmmakers screened short scenes of everyday life. After their initial movie screenings in Paris, the Lumiere brothers went on to screen films around the world. This kick-started the film industry, especially in places like the United States and the rest of Europe.
Prior to the invention of the cinematograph, filmmakers like George Méliès began to get creative in their editing skills by learning new techniques and tricks. In his 1902 film, Trip to the Moon, Méliès used one of the earliest film editing techniques known as tinting. Tinting is the process of adding color to black and white film, usually by soaking the film in dye or staining it. This technique was used by early filmmakers to add vibrance and depth to their films.
One of the most important advancements in the history of filmmaking was the invention of Technicolor in 1916, which allowed filmmakers to record films in color. Although this discovery was revolutionary in the film world, it ended up creating a lot of difficulties for projectionists and theaters. Later, the arrival of the 3-color camera and Technicolor 3-strip changed the film technology industry forever and made color films experience an unstoppable growth from 1935 onward.
In addition to the incorporation of color into films, the technological advancements of sound in the film industry was equally important. Alan Crosland's 1927 film, The Jazz Singer, marked another turning point in the way we view film, accompanying the images projected on the screen with matching sounds. The invention of the Vitaphone is what made this all possible.
The movie Singing in the Rain from 1952 has an interesting scene where they showcase the problems that they had to deal with when introducing sound to the cinema world.
She's got to talk into the mic. I can't pick it up.
Cut! What's the matter, Dexter?
It's Lena. Look, Lena, don't you remember I told you there's a microphone right there in the bush?
Yeah.
You have to talk into it.
In conclusion, the early cinema world was full of experimentation and change that led to the modern cinema that we have today.